Welcome to
Got crabs.
Harry having crabs and the seasonal model breakdown. This video has been long in the works. It's not really, but it's just something we noticed when talking about
Yeah. Why are we wasting our time talking about this today?
where because recently with the podcast, obviously we've been trying to predict and guess what's being added. We obviously knew there were grenades, but the details. But we kind of just wanted. I just wanted to explain why we think there's going to be a new biome or anomaly, that kind of thing, and other things that are coming. Why we think that's the case, and I'm going to explain to you now. Disclaimer. Getting this out of the way. I do not know how they decide what they add each season. Like we're not psychic. We don't have a man on the inside, or woman on the inside. Anyone can be inside nowadays. I don't know what that means. Point is, I'm not.
It's July. It's okay. It's not June anymore.
Oh right, yeah, we don't have to care. But I've broken down the previous seasons for like patterns and in what they added to the game, and we're gonna go over these patterns. And then
patterns derived from all two seasons.
Well,
still,
thing is, we do actually have a couple of things for next season, which does fall in line with what's currently here, and it'll only get stronger or weaker as the coming seasons go. But just getting this out on the table now because it's here. I'm just going to talk about it. Made a PowerPoint, so might as well. But I think let's just get into it. Or why? To help predict future content is why we do this. So we know what to kind of expect for the season, so we know what to just guess wildly about. Like, for example, each season so far, we have got a weapon framework. We have got the Wasters, and we got the Builder's Choice. So it's fairly safe to assume. Obviously, 2 seasons, not that strong of a pattern, but chances are we're going to get another framework. So we can now kind of guess or come up with ideas for what that framework might be due to knowing that chances are there is going to be another one. Of course, there might not be, but statistically...
It's like the most guaranteed thing without having been technically announced.
Yeah. Like, it's such a solid bet, really. Like, so far, 100% of the time, there's been frameworks. So,
100%
it's safe to assume. Yeah. But, yeah. Now, I think we'll get into... Yeah. So, I split it into 2 sides of a season. One side being the seasonal side. The other being additional content. And I'll get into what each of those means after explaining what's in each side. For the seasonal, you have the season pass. Makes sense. Enemies. The enemies that are relating to the season, such as the robots, but we'll get into that more. Events, the seasonal events that give you the rewards for the season. And the map is how I put it. But more the kind of actual gameplay additions, content. And the other side, in addition...
I think missions is probably a better term.
Maybe. I did kind of struggle with just trying to find the right way to be vague.
It's called the mission terminal, isn't it? It's not even called the map.
I suppose. Well, I put terminal, but then I realised that everything else is called a terminal. But the equipment expansion, which kind of self-explanatory. Harry, I can hear myself. Community requests. Which is as it sounds as well, but we'll get into it. SPACERIG upgrades, which is another vague but accurate one, and DLCs, which DLCs they're kind of just there as well. But we'll start with the seasonal. Oh wow, Morph is a really nice thing. Just pulled the seasonal bit up. So what is?
Yeah, that's why Morph is such a brilliant transition.
Thank
you, Microsoft PowerPoint.
Yeah, which I don't technically own anymore, which is fun. Things that are strongly connected to the given season, which is kind of explanatory considering seasonal, but it's things that could be / is going to be removed each season. So and I guess we'll just go into it to kind of elaborate further with examples, because that's normally the best way to explain things. But the season pass, right? We know that the season pass is strongly connected to the seasons, and that they will be removed come each season. That's just how it works, all right? But there will always be a new one, so it's the safest thing to tie to seasonal stuff. And I'll also use this to explain how this video is going to look visually, with the Rival Tech editions, no, Rival Incursion edition Season 1 on the left, and the Rival Escalation Season 2 editions on the right.
I bet they save so much money with that formatting. It's like...
Yeah. Which is why I think it's going to be interesting as well, that I imagine it's not going to look like this either, because these titles are clearly rival designed, right? So even the title is going to look pretty different next season. Looking forward to it. But the point is, in the season past, we got Waster, as exampled earlier, and then we got Builder's Choice. So, as earlier, chances are we're going to get another framework. God knows what it's going to be, but it's going to be there. With Season 1, we got Data Cells. Season 2, Data Cells. And while chances are a Data Cells-like thing is going to be next season, we know that Data Cells themselves are not. But it's safe to assume that there's going to be a reward feature like Data Cells. Scripts, probably more scripts. Safe to bet. Common thing.
Gonna be green.
You think?
They're gonna be green or piss yellow.
I hope piss yellow. I like piss. Cosmetics. There's going to be more cosmetics.
I hope it's not yellow, because that would really fuck with any, like, if we had to talk about it in a video like this. You can't, like, the formatting. If you want to color code things with, like, particular font, and it has to be yellow.
Yeah. I mean, if it's yellow, they've got
Barrel Vision format.
If it's yellow, at least we've got the primary colours, so then it will get more interesting from then onward. But yeah, bunch of cosmetics. Chances are they're going to be a season pass. And the daily tasks, once again, another common theme that has been in each of these seasons. Like, the seasons are not hard to predict how they're going to work, because they've been pretty consistent in the last two. But what it's actually going to be in them...
really consistent.
Well, the only real change...
I just feel the need to emphasise every time you say something like that, because I just find it's correct, but it's still funny. There's only two. The sample set is very small.
Yeah, but we'd have to wait another 4 months to get another sample, so I'm kind of jumping the gun because I want to cover it now. But yeah, the only real change between seasons is the increased amount of data cells that you could get to get scripts. That was the only real thing they changed. Obviously added a bit more the frameworks, because more guns. That's the only real changes that happened. But yeah, season passes, pretty obvious, pretty safe bet. That's why I covered it first. But now we'll get into a bit more of the spicier ones with the enemies that they added in the seasons.
Enemies.
Season 1, as you're probably aware, they added the new boss enemy, which could be take somewhere else, but the Caretaker is a new boss that they added season 1. Obviously they added the new enemy types, being the rivals, which includes all the other enemies that they kind of added there. And season 2 also added a new enemy, the mini boss Nemesis. Not as much as the previous season, but
well, I would like to factor in the turret controller as a sort of well, it's not an entity itself. It sort of represents a separate category of encounters that you can come across. It's sort of like the rival version of when you just come across a bunch of, I don't know, just like a swarm of bacteria just floating around. I don't know. I think there's a category there that the turret controller fits into.
We'll go with I guess
and you sort of have these
maybe
four different things. Because yeah, mini boss is separate from boss and just normal enemies, and then the turret controller is something else, sort of entirely. I guess it's honestly it's most similar probably to something like the snapper vines, because they're stationary enemies that don't have health bars, but at the same time they do. You can't destroy the turret controller just by attacking it.
Yeah.
so it doesn't really have something that's directly comparable to it. Well, no, I think it does. It's just more non-traditional, but it's still very much along the lines of something like a core lock. It's just not framed in the exact same way. It's a pretty similar scenario. It's a stationary encounter.
Yeah, but it doesn't actually
more so
directly attack you. But I guess it does have defenses.
No,
but
which is very similar to the core lock.
Point is, they add enemies each season, and the enemies are directly connected to the season. So. And I'm going to do this from basically now on, because I couldn't really with the other season one. But an example of a thing we would kind of pull from this is that maybe next season, if they don't add another boss, another bunch of enemies, which they probably will, or another mini-boss.
I think bosses are always quite likely, or at least a mini-boss.
They could add new variants to Glyphids or something, or probably more likely they'll just add a new enemy type or something like that. But that would be, tied to whatever the season is. Would be whatever the new enemies are. That's kind of how it's going to be from now on, I imagine, going off these two. But once again, very similar updates, and so small data cell, but we'll move on to events. Once again, you probably know what the events are, but I'm just going to elaborate them. And I've kind of specified what kind of event they are, with a new kill event being the Prospector. I put kill events as like the Corlock, the Betsy, that kind of thing, like a technical boss in a mission event, and the goal is to kill them. So a new kill event type Prospector. I've put this as new protect event, being the data deposit, which not really any other events are like that, considering the protecting of a thing is new to the game or season 1. No. What else?
No. It's just because what it's comparable to is on a larger scale. No.
Not Betsy.
Salvage operation itself.
I meant Doretta. Salvage operation. No, you don't defend.
Point defense.
Yeah, but they don't.
Yourselves.
They don't attack the thing. The thing doesn't have a health bar. You're not protecting it. You're just kind of surviving in that area. But
it's still defense. It's defense gameplay.
Yeah, but it's not protecting gameplay. You're not protecting.
Director's more accurate, slightly more accurate. They're both accurate and inaccurate in certain ways.
But that's like a new type. But I'm just kind of specify, like, trying to, because chances are they're going to add a new event. But as to what type of event they are, we might try and figure out by what they've added previously. And season 2, they added a new hacking event, which is vague considering it's a mechanic they added. Well, the technical mechanic they added that season, really, of the wire hacking.
I think that the words for it are very difficult to find because I don't think they really exist. But this category already exists of sort of events that you have to complete in specific ways. And it sounds broad, but it's not broad when you realise it's the Vital Signal event, Ebonite mutation, and Tritolite deposits, I think.
Yeah, I think
that it's complete in a specific way.
The rifle signal sort of is very similar to a machine event in that it has a set time, unlike
definitely the most similar.
The other ones.
By far the most similar out of the bunch.
Yeah, but which is why if they were to keep the events around, it might be moved into a machine event. But that's neither here nor there. But so considering they added events in both seasons, chances are they're going to add a new one. And I've gone with like a new summon event, like a Tritolite. You summon something in from the sky because you find something and then try and destroy it, or something like that. Like, or maybe I don't know. Point is, chances are there's going to be a new event, and the new event will be in a daily task or whatever. Or no, they'll just give you whatever the rewards are. I don't know how it's going to work, but we can assume and then guess off that there's going to be an event in the next season. So, yeah.
I reckon it could be like, because you could argue that random dreadnought spawns are an event of sorts. It's something that can just happen rarely, but it's obviously a big deal. It uses the dreadnought music. They have the health bar. It's like this big deal. Yeah. I can see an event that is a random encounter, a random forced encounter. It would be more appropriately placed as sort of a additional one. Well, not additional, but if they were to add 2, it could be 1. But I don't think if they were to add only 1 event, that something like that would really work. But because it would be a bit rarer than these others. But it would be like a random forced swarm that would encompass the event. It would be like a swarm. It would take the slot of a swarm, but it would be a seasonal event. I want that.
I think that, events are a very, very important part of the game that they constantly are adding to, but they never really focus on, I wouldn't say. They kind of have with the machine event update and all that, but there's some room to add stuff, especially if they're going to remove some of the events, because it might not fit in with the robots being gone, but we'll see. But the next kind of thing, as mentioned, can't really put it into words accurately, but the map additions I went with being just things that contribute to a mission and or literally a mission type, with the season 1 new game mode being Industrial Sabotage. That was their whole big kind of gameplay addition. It will go with their thing to do, I guess, being the game mode, and with season 2 the new warning of the rival presence being the other thing to do with the robots, and chances are we're going to have something like it, which is what we based our probably latest podcast on, being a new biome.
I'd say both.
Or a new anomaly.
I think that podcast ended up being based on both. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the new warning doesn't feel like it's on the same level as a new game mode, but I would argue that people have gotten a lot more out of the warning than the game mode. Like, people played the warning far more, probably because it's a lot more common and a lot more forced.
It's less content, but
yeah,
it's less physical content. It's less assets being created and being used for it. But at the same time, either one has the potential to upstage the other in terms of how much variety and engagement they actually generate. And I'd say Rival Presence as a warning has done a lot more than Industrial Sabotage has. And you're right, that is partially due to presentation, I'd argue, in terms of how it's presented to you, how the ways in which the game encourages or doesn't encourage you to do it, in that you are much less encouraged to do Industrial Sabotage than you are Rival Presence, even during Season 1. Because Rival Presence is part of assignments, can be. I'm not too sure about that.
I think
it must be, right?
Yeah, it's just another warning. Although I think it's one of the common ones, admittedly, because of how the season is at the moment. Yeah, but it is just a warning, and I expect it to. As much as I think some of these maybe, Industrial Sabotage has been. They never said they were going to delete it. Maybe reduce the amount you can play it even less, but they never claimed they were going to delete it. But some other things they have. But Rival Presence, they could remove it, but I think they might as well just make it a warning to keep the robots around. So as much as I think these are both going to stay, they still kind of fit in the heavily season-tied content, which we expect maybe a new biome, a new anomaly, and always they could do a secondary objective, which Harry mentioned in the podcast. That is also another thing they could do, or a new game mode, or a new warning again. It's up to them, but we should expect a big map edition or mission edition in the next season. But what that is, we can only speculate using these data.
And when we take map editions and what the other one was it just events? I don't know. Take those two, out of what we've got so far, we can probably say that events are the ones that are more likely to go away.
Yeah, I think the events, because they did specifically say that for I think the events that they could go. Like when they added it, they could be removed in the future. They don't know what to do with it.
And the way they function in game actually doesn't really it will cease to make sense in future seasons. Yeah. What they provide will no longer make sense. It won't make sense that you would be able to get performance points from past seasonal content.
Which is why I think
also it would feel weird if they just turned it into something else entirely. If they turned them into machine events that reward Matrix cores.
But I also, what the future of the events are iffy, but I think it is a per event basis. Like, I can see the prospect of staying around, but it just drops a lot more minerals. I can see that being the case, and it just becomes a bigger, cooler hoolie hoarder, basically.
A bigger, cooler hoolie hoarder.
Yeah, but the hacking one could become a machine event just to add another machine event. I think that would be fair. But I honestly, the data hacking pod thing, I can see that being removed.
That one can disappear because it's
the worst
in industrial sabotage.
That too, as well. Actually, if you wanted to do the hacking, it's in the industrial sabotage, which will probably will definitely stick around in some shape or form. But yeah, point is, the future of these things are iffy, and that's what makes them seasonal in their design. Meanwhile, we're moving on to additional content, which I would argue things that are loosely / not really connected to the given season, right? Like, obviously they can tangentially say like, oh yeah, it's because of these events that you're getting these things, but really they would have added it anyway no matter what the event was, if you know what I mean. So that's what these are. They are additional content that will most likely always remain in the game. They're just adding content.
No, I actually think they're going to remove all the new weapons next season.
Oh, that's fair. I think Phase Unite was a mistake. They're going to remove that. Yeah. But, for example, even though we just kind of spoiled two of them, but you already figured it out, it's equipment expansion. So, fancy way of saying the primaries of Season 1 and the secondaries of Season 2. These are...
Damn it! I missed... you spelled hurricane real bad.
Come on, Harry, you're supposed to spell check. I actually knew I spelled it wrong, but I didn't know how to correct it either, so I just left it.
Hurricane.
Yeah, but... and obviously, these are quite simple. They're primary, secondaries. They're never going to be removed from the game. They were honestly probably the main additions of the seasons. And
now, should you really have put EG new grenades?
Well,
shouldn't you put EG... something else?
No, because this is the one, or not the one, we know a couple, but like, this is one of the biggest ones that kind of backs up my theory that this will keep going, in that there's already a new equipment expansion confirmed for next season. We are getting new grenades, right? They are keeping up this pattern already. Like, we already know there's going to be at least 3 seasons worth of equipment expansion, right? I mean, the future of the 4th and 5th could change it, but for now, this is the most reinforced part of this video, I would argue. It's guaranteed to be the case for at least next season that we get new grenades. So, yeah.
Yeah, but that's why I question why you put it as an example. Because it's the one we know we're getting, as opposed to perks, overclocks, traversal tools, support tools, which are sort of next in line, I'd argue.
Yeah.
They either will or won't be next in line. Problem is, I don't know which ones to pick out. I guess if you were to take those 4 things, I guess, unfortunately, traversal support tools are probably the least likely that we'll see more of, which is kind of a shame, in my opinion.
If they keep up the equipment expansion, like, and this is actually a thing they want to do, they want to keep adding to the equipment of the dwarves, inevitably they will get round to those 2. But for now, they're doing grenades, and for now, this is going to at least be the case for Season 3, that they are adding more equipment to the dwarves. They might even add a bit more, considering they mentioned that they were going to add grenades, but they might do a bit more as well. But for now, this is the most reinforced claim I'm making that backs up that this is a pattern. And moving on, we then have...
Oh, that's actually true. It's only because it's what we know.
Yeah.
It's based on what we know is being added.
Yeah. Like, it is a guaranteed pattern, at least.
but it's very hard, like we said, it's very hard to imagine that the main seasonal content isn't going to follow the shown trends anyway. It's very we couldn't wrap our heads around it not being a biome, an anomaly, or something that we've already gotten.
Yeah.
We just couldn't wrap our heads around it being anything else. So that's in my opinion, that's guaranteed on the basis of us being simpletons. But we'll have to see. I would be so interested if it's not, though. I said that.
I think as much as these patterns are predictable and that allows us to guess things, I think if they escape these patterns and give us new and interesting ideas, I'm not going to be like, damn, no, they need to do the
this is an observation. This isn't us saying this is how we want things to go.
Yeah.
I want them to break the pattern. I don't want them to be patterns, because that means they force themselves into something. I don't want that.
But we're just noticing what they're kind of adding each season, and this is something I noticed, which is vague, but it is a section that they named themselves, community requests, right? These are things, season 1, calling the mule, rather. When you call them and she's not in the mission, the voice lines, when you're pinging them and the mule appears next to your name, all of that stuff, that was last season.
Right.
The community requested it, they added it. More loadouts. With the new guns, they realised probably need more loadouts, so they added them. Community request.
Probably should have done it again. Just bring it up to 10. Just do it.
Yeah, just give me 10 dwarves to make it look good. That would literally kill me. I'll kill myself. The drill anglometer, which was a mod that they really liked, and they saw it just adding it to the game, so they did. Which is something that I will continue on with. And they added a VR port thing, which is... it's just something they did, right? It's in the community request section, so yeah. And in season 2, actually a bit of a weird common thing of voice line additions in the community request. Pinging people.
I mean, voice lines fits into sort of the miscellaneous thing, where it doesn't really matter if they do or don't. Chances are they will add more, but it's not interesting enough. That's basically been a trend with almost every big update.
Yeah.
Or pretty much every update, in fact. So it's not really worth putting on the table as part of the seasonal model.
Yeah, I think community requests kind of just come under little bits and bobs they feel the need to add to increase either immersion or just player. I think there's a word that I'm trying to find, but I don't think I'll find it. Player, not immersion, but just ease of use, basically. Just makes the game feel nicer.
Quality of life.
Yeah, quality of life, that's the one. Calling the mule and pinging people, that just makes it feel kind of better. More real, more, full. And same with the loadouts just helped. Drill, it was just a nice mod.
Well, actually, the voice line thing, I mean, the pinging your teammates thing, also... It's not even that. I think it's just dwarf to dwarf communication.
Yeah,
it's actually what they added really, where you can ping someone to activate it, but also friendly fire has. I think there already were voice lines. Actually,
they just added a lot more voice lines generally, just to kind of make the game
that one
feel nicer.
specifically, that is technically a new mechanic.
Yeah,
kind of.
And then I think another thing,
and say something.
I would say that there is actually a vague pattern that more loadouts was just a thing that made sense that people wanted, so they did it. And that same it can be applied to the face mask change, which was in the community requests, and that people wanted the face mask to be a face mask and not a helmet or that, so they changed it, and that was nice. People loved it, and
it's not the only one.
Yeah. And they also did a lot more mod stuff. They helped the modding with I don't know, a bunch of random bollocks, noting mods. And we play on Xbox. We don't know what the mod stuff is, but once again,
I don't know what mods are.
Once again, they kind of added just something extra for people who were modding to help them out a bit. And the community request is the most random one. Even we couldn't predict what they're going to add in the community request, because chances are, if we predict it, that could actually make it happen. Obviously not us saying they should add I don't know, bigger eyebrows or something like that. They're obviously not only okay, they said that, so we're going to add them. But if enough people ask for something, this is where it's going to fall in the community request, right? If enough people are I want this to be added to the game, it's going to be in the community request section, so you could actually make it happen. But for now, the only real safe bet of what they could add are popular mods. If it's a reasonable mod, like the driller anglometer, which I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but if it's just a mod like that, then they could just add it. If it's popular and it's easy, they'll add it. Job done. They've said it themselves on a stream. I'm pretty sure that they'll just do that. But yeah. And I think this might be SPACERIG upgrades. This is admittedly a vaguer one. This is covering a lot of extra stuff, but it does all come under this somehow. With new terminal, the season pass, which is what it is, a new terminal to the SPACERIG, which was the season pass. Did they add the football one, season 1?
Was it? No, I think it was season 2.
What? No. No, wasn't season 2.
I think it was season 1.
All right, good. So yeah, just adding season 1 is a lot more literal. They added stuff to the space rig. Season 2 is a bit more of a push, I would argue.
It's sort of blending together categories of editions, and there's sort of an unspoken one. And I know why you didn't include it in this video, because you actually couldn't figure out what the season 1 comparison was. But we talked about it before. We talked about wildcard editions, which is exactly what Phase Unite is. It's the kind of thing that you can't really predict, but it's still a big edition. But it doesn't even have to be big, though, because if you take the season 1 and season 2 patch notes side by side, the actual equivalent to Phase Unite is the hacking device. Hacking as a mechanic.
I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's presented in its own section on the season 1 patch notes. Admittedly, Phase Unite and Cosmetic Mastery are presented in separate sections, but that's the same part of the same edition, frankly.
Yeah.
And the A to B core choice too, but at the same time, hacking was a pretty cool mechanic that we couldn't have predicted, so that gets thrown in there as well.
I think as far as like guessing things go, I think that we did originally put it before season 2 as just a wild card, a thing that will just like kind of appear and change, like the Phase Unite. But I feel like I wouldn't say I whittled it down. Like SPACERIG upgrades really doesn't whittle anything down. It's just a vague, over-encompassing thing for like the season terminal, which makes sense. The football that they kind of just added, and then but the more Phase Unite, which helps with the store. So why there's no actual physical upgrade to the space rig, the store use has been upgraded. AB core choice, the forge use has been upgraded. There's more stuff to do there, more like help in what you actually want to do. And there was also the med gowns, which I would say is a bit more of like the football kind of thing.
Well, see, this is an interesting thing. This is why this category of editions is very wishy-washy, and that's because something like the football, I'm not even sure if they mentioned it in the patch notes, or either that was in the MISC. But the medical gown is, and really, I would have perhaps, like I said, it's the most wishy-washy category that you've come up with. So it would be probably better addressed as, well, first of all, we need to remove the football part, and then it's good that you put a question mark next to it because it doesn't really belong there.
Sure, it does. It's the thing added to the space.
No, you don't understand, because this is to me, this section, what we're looking at on screen right now is sort of additions that are highlighted but aren't put under the MISC category. These are things that have their own dedicated sections in patch notes, but don't come under MISC where it's just bullet points, which is why wildcards I think applies there, because they don't fit into a trend, but they are also considered significant additions, unlike football. And the football thing's not a mechanic, it's a mini game on the space rig.
I know, but the med gowns aren't a mechanic. They're just a funky thing that happens if you fail the mission, right? It's just, I don't know, it is, once again, these are a bit like the community request ones, where they just kind of, I mean, the season pass is an actual edition, Phase Unite the same, but like the football and med gowns, they're just kind of adding to the space rig. They just give it a bit more fun. The football game to mess around with, wait for people to stop being AFK or something. The med gowns to make dying feel funny, or it's like they're just kind of adding generally to the space rig with new terminals or new minerals or choices to help just kind of make things feel better. Like,
make dying feel funny.
Make dying feel funny. And I honestly, I'm pressing EG. I do not remember what I guessed. Apparently a new deep dive. Apparently,
I remember looking at this and being just bewildered.
Yeah.
What are you talking? What are you saying?
As mentioned, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's going on the same kind of lines as the Phase Unite and AB core choices, where it's just a addition to the space rig and just something like maybe also new beers. New beers would fit under this category for me. A new mini game. Like I don't, it's kind of worrying, but I really want some form of gambling in the space rig. If they add any form of like poker, blackjack, or like a slot machine, I will spend all of my time on there, and I will play the game astronomically more. But that's neither here nor there. I have an issue. But something like that, just something that adds to the space rig either directly by adding something or just improves a station or system in the space rig. Now, obviously, you could argue that the guns and that do that as well, but shh, shut up. So, yeah, maybe new like assignments. Now, I think now I would force that to be in here maybe as well. Just this is really the other, well, not being called other, but it's noteworthy, I think, that, these are all things that they kind of did just to kind of upgrade your experience even more.
Well, unfortunately, I'd argue that new assignments is something that you missed, in that there will probably be a new assignment every season. And there has been an assignment. It's almost like... It's not... It's the closest thing. It's the closest thing they have to actual gameplay that enforces the. It's not telling a story, but it forces the season narrative. The assignment does, in some way, like Spec Ops training for industrial sabotage, or Rival Presence, which sort of has this, which is one of the best assignments. But so far, it's been an assignment in both seasons, so it's probably going to be another.
Yeah, I did forget about that, but yeah. So once again, another thing that has happened in 2 seasons will likely come up in another one, so we could try and predict that, but it would base a lot on what's heading towards Oxys, so can't guess much on that regard. But yeah, this is kind of my other section, but you get the point that you could still predict things with these patterns. Like, you can notice that they might add something else to a thing that's struggling. Like deep dives, I would argue, are lacking. I think they haven't been touched in so long, so maybe they could do like an extra one, or maybe change up deep dives in some way. But yeah, point is, here's Space Rig upgrades. Now on to basically the other DLCs. It's a given. This is another one of the confirmed ones, right? They do seasons basically, or DLCs every update for the last year or 2 now, and I do not hate it. Obviously, we had Rival Tech Season 1 and Robot Rebellion Season 2. Both pretty good, pretty nice, pretty solid. And we would assume the next DLC is going to be based on the season, or just some other DLC idea they come up with. So I've made just a bunch of ideas just to kind of put out there. And Harry will probably chew over me or just belittle my lovely ideas. Crash Course.
Shit.
So the DLC, they're either like they're dressed like crash dummies,
or like, dummies.
Yeah, like I don't know, lab rats, that kind of thing. Not sure of the details, but yeah, Meteor Madness. Like if it's a meteor coming and it crashes into the thing, maybe they take some of the meteor and make it into armors, and they're like rocky and glowing, something like that. Parasitic plot, where they have like parasites attached to their armor or stuff like that. They have like a symbiote consuming half of them or something like that. Fleshy fun time, where if it's a flesh pit, they could make armor out of the flesh, and they're fleshy and fun, and wouldn't it be so nice?
No, I never want to see this.
And then formal wear, where they have a suit and tie and look nice and dapper. Personally, I prefer the flesh suits, but do what you want. And then
I mean, I like the idea of zombie armor, where they're sort of like wearing like raggedy clothes and have like wounds and like holes in their heads.
And the final one, ancestral armor, which is more like actual like dwarven armor, if you know what I mean, like in like the Hobbit or stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, the Scale Brigade armor sort of feels like because the Scale Brigade is meant to be this like faction of dwarves that is sort of like, I get the impression they're not just standard dwarves who have just been hired. They're this specific group. Like, apart from the Scale Brigade, the dwarves are just like random dwarves.
Yeah.
They just sort of pick them up one at a time. But the Scale Brigade were like hired as like an entire group, I think, because
Didn't know that.
And well, not hired so much as
Recruited.
no hired. No, not recruited. That's the point. They're not employees. They're like mercenaries, I think. I don't know, but I get the impression that what they're doing is sort of taking DRG like armor and sort of adding to it in a way that invokes ancestral armor. Which is why I think it's so similar to Fourth Relic, but it's not like the true Fourth Relic armor, because I think that's what Fourth Relic represents. Which is why I think Fourth Relic armor set would be great, and it fits in with things like Dark Future and the Dawn of the Dread, which are DLC armors that were clearly made to fit in frameworks that pre-exist. So the only problem with Fourth Relic armor quotes is that so far DLCs have been very seasonally themed, so it wouldn't quite fit.
So we'll see. But the point is, DLCs. We know that one's coming, but it's pretty difficult to guess what it is currently. But I think that is about wrapping up. So in conclusion, I have no idea what I'm saying. Not a word is confirmed. As in, no, there are no. Oh. We don't know if this is how they see it, or this is a thing that goes through their head, or a common they're like, okay, we've got to tick this box, right? Obviously, grenades are confirmed, DLC is confirmed, but like. That they add them just because they feel like they have to is not confirmed. But I hope this now helps you to see what we see, basically. Like, that now you see why we say that there's probably a new biome or a new anomaly coming next season. That it makes a bit more sense to you, at least. And then you could also tell us why we're wrong. Bit of a dick move, but you can now.
But we're not.
Yeah, but they can try.
But we're not.
For future seasons. Yeah, so whenever we kind of predict stuff, this
but
is
we're not wrong.
Sorry, I get it. But yeah, so thanks
good
for
timing
watching.
on that motorbike, by the way.
Yeah, well, he's just a knob. He's
as
probably...
good a timing as it can be if we have to hear him in a video.
Yeah, it's a really steep hill outside my house as well, so he's just booking it down it. I hope he crashes.
Can I say something about the deep dive thing?
How about I put the thanks
idea.
for watching up, and then like all of that, and then you can go on. Thanks for watching. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. You know, whole YouTuber spiel. Remember, Rock and Stone does actually equal like and subscribe. So
Rock and Stone.
Yeah, are you ready coming home?
I can't be bothered to do small voice.
And then Harry, please, we need money for jet ski. Which is true. We really need jet ski, even though... Do you need a license to drive them?
Perfect union of form and function. Probably.
Yeah. So we'll also get money for a license for jet ski then. But Harry, on do your deep dive. Right.
Well, it's not. It's an idea. It's not my pitch per se, so much as it's just an idea that I would want to throw into the mix. Doesn't mean I actually think it's a good idea, but it's like a rival deep dive, and part of this sort of relies on the idea that perhaps every season would be a two-parter, which frankly I think would be smart on Ghost Ship's end. But the way it would work, specifically, let's just not really... Let's forget about future seasons, but it's based on Season 1 and 2. And it would still just be 3 missions. It's not going to be anything crazy, because I think if they had like a 5-mission deep dive just to include past season content would feel a bit... Not only gratuitous, but... Well, yeah, it would feel gratuitous, but also irrelevant. How big it is. So it would just be the standard 3 missions. First mission, I don't know if there would be anything different about the first mission. Maybe a guaranteed seasonal event. Not sure. As a secondary objective, perhaps. I mean, that's a bit of an extreme change, but I still think it's possible. I mean, maybe that would apply to all 3 stages. I'm not sure. But then the second mission obviously would have the rival presence warning, and then the third mission would be industrial sabotage. And the rewards would be, I think, probably just one. You'd have to do the whole thing and you'd get just one item from previous 2 seasons. That's why it sort of relies on two-parter thing, unfortunately, because it's based on both the whole rival thing. So it can give you any item from the cosmetic tree or the pass. So it's also kind of not really for veterans once again. I don't know. It's just like the only idea I had when it comes to what would another deep dive even be, apart from the generalist idea of just a much bigger deep dive. There's like 5 or even infinite, which is what people want.
So this would be just like putting all of the robots into a deep dive, and that's it. You just put all of it there. So if anyone wants to actually play against the robots, they just do that deep dive, and it gives you the whole experience of these 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's the worst idea, especially if they do intend on removing most of it. I think delegating it to, and they could be like, I don't know, they could be like historical dives or something like that.
I think it definitely works with the secondary objective idea in that we sort of transcribe it to this, and the idea of removing seasonal events. Because we have 3 seasonal events to work with. They all get removed, but they just get made secondary objectives in this deep dive. You win. Because the deep dives don't have traditional secondary objectives anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not that out there really. And so you do like, I guess it probably have to be ordered in some way. I reckon rivals. Oh, it's difficult actually because none of them really fit on an industrial sabotage mission.
I think.
So I guess you would leave it out there. I don't know.
I think it needs to be like not like a deep dive. Like it should be. Well, it's like scripted. Like the first mission should be a random normal mission, and then the second one, should have like a rival presence, and then the last one should be an industrial sabotage. But like, as far as terrain is concerned, it should randomize every time. It shouldn't be like the other deep dives, because otherwise it would be extremely boring and no one would ever want to do it. But it would literally, they would just be basically just old missions. Like if they're no longer accessible in the main terminal, you can then just play them on there if you want to fight against robots, like stuff like that. So I've seen people want like legacy deep dives where you can play every previous deep dive. Yeah,
which is honestly it's a ridiculous idea. So I'm eating.
Yeah, I can tell.
It's fine. Just end of the video.
Yeah, but could you wait until the video had ended? Maybe, considering you're the reason why it's still on.
All right.
Is that? Do you want the video to end?
No.
Then stop eating.
I don't have an idea.
Then no, you're not allowed. That's it. Save it for the podcast.